Guillaume Pontecorvo's 1966 masterpiece, The Battle of Algiers, remains perhaps one of the most controversial works of resistance. The film takes place between November 1954 and December 1957, a period marred by French occupation in North Africa. Tensions rise between the French authority figures and the Algerian National Liberation Front, a group fighting passionately for the liberation of its people.
تحيا الجزائر تحيا الجزائر تحيا الجزائر تحيا الجزائر.
We see this tug of war largely through the eyes of Ali Lapointe, a recently released ex-convict who slowly becomes a key figure in the fight against the French. Throughout the film, we see a gradual escalation. The FLN targets officers. And the officers retaliate with further restrictions and taking things into their own hands. A line is crossed, though, after the government bombs a building of innocent Algerians.
Passez-moi le haut-parleur.
The fire is only stoked further when Lieutenant Colonel Mathau, ironically a prior fighter in the French resistance during World War II, is brought in to further lay down the law. More carnage ensues, including Ali's eventual death. But the Algerians push on, and their independence is eventually granted.
Le 2 juillet 1962, avec l'indépendance, naquit la nation algérienne.
Though Ali acts as an anchor for the audience, he's simply a player on a team of many. From his mentor Jafar to even Petit Omar, a messenger for the Algerian resistance. It's moments like this that re-establish, to my eyes, the resistance as a collective one. An entire country facing the cold wall of Western colonization. It's no surprise that when Ali is killed towards the end of the film, the whole city practically stands on edge, waiting for the act to transpire. I think this is also why the ending is so powerful. A nation refusing to stay silent, even though their leaders have since passed on. The film also sheds light on the perspective of women within the revolution. Not only do we see them constantly help hide members of the FLN, like the woman with the well, we see more direct involvement as well. Women take advantage of the perception of themselves by the French guards at security checks. It's no surprise that 3 of the most devastating bombings are executed by women, easily able to slip by without too much suspicion. This is also likely why, later in the film, Ali and several other men accomplish an ambush by disguising themselves as women.
Moi, dans 3 mois, je me tire.
Hé là, regarde. Halte!
From a technical standpoint, though at certain points heavily stylized, it takes on the element of a documentary. A warning was even put before the film in order to reiterate its existence as a work of fiction. Pontecorvo, the director, also made it a point to use a group of unknown actors, further embellishing a sense of reality. One of them, Youssef Saadi, had been a real-life member of the National Liberation Front back when the real war transpired. The film takes on an objective stance, not shying away from atrocities on either side. We can see, for instance, a rise in racism against the native Algerians by the French. An innocent beggar, chased down, is eventually labeled as guilty. And following another bombing, we see the crowd turn against a young Algerian boy selling refreshments. Their hate is so ravenous that they take their anger out on an innocent child. The National Liberation Front is also far from innocent. As we follow three women placing bombs in various cafes and restaurants, the camera lingers on the French inhabitants, ultimately bystanders caught in the middle of enemy fire. We even cut to a little boy eating ice cream. It's no surprise that we revisit all of these faces before time's up. The carnage displayed is tragic, as opposed to triumphant. Controversial for its attack of French imperialism, France banned the film for 5 years. People sympathetic to the French military also sent death threats to the director. Additionally, the film gained a reputation for inspiring political violence, with its tactics borrowed by groups as diverse as the Irish Republican Party, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, and the Black Panther Party. A 2003 screening at the Pentagon further reinforced its notoriety, regarded as useful for commanders and troops facing similar issues in occupied Iraq. I've always felt that most powerful pieces of art manage to live on in its own way, and the film is no exception.